Hi, I'm Orbit, and I know it's been a while. It's safe to say the focal point of the video I wanted to post fell through. For any curious, it was what if King Arthur were a lagomorph? But as things go, that video turned out horrendous by my standards. But why dwell on the past? Time's always moving, so let's chug along with it. The focus of today's video is Pokemon Sword and Shield. More specifically, though, Gigantamax. Despite Gmax being my favorite gimmick, even I can admit that it's got flaws. This video is aimed at fixing some of those issues that I have with the gimmick. Before even getting into what I want to change, I want to clarify a lot of things. This video isn't so much about improving the gimmick for everyone, it's about changing what about it makes me annoyed. This video is first and foremost about making what I didn't and don't like about Dynamax/Gmax palatable to me. Secondly, I am not changing anything about the story of Pokemon Sword or Shield. That's not something I feel qualified or capable of doing. On top of that, this is entirely my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me. Number 4. Do not base your opinion of my changes to the gimmick on the designs I'm showing off today. I can't and won't draw in the Sugimori or Pokemon style. Because of the changes I'm making to the gimmick, I'm going to be scrapping a large portion of existing Gmax forms. But before that, I'm scrapping Dynamax entirely. I like big Pokemon, don't get me wrong, but I really love the idea of making it easier to get your own big Pokemon and more fun to fight big Pokemon if you don't have any of your own. Playing into this, if you go into a fight against a gym leader that has a Gigantamax Ace, and while you don't have a Gigantamax Pokemon of your own, you'll get another Pokemon, making it a double battle versus one big Pokemon. On the topic of scrapping things, let's get into the Gmax Pokemon themselves. I think a criticism of Gmax being their just megas is partially justified. I think many of the designs, especially ones that feel obligated, like the Gen 1 trio, work too well both large and small. Gmax as a gimmick should feel like a gargantuan monster who can't move at all in the cramped stadium you fight in. If you shrunk down a Gmax Charizard or Venusaur, they'd move the same way as the normal, if not the megas. Regarding this, I want to save the designs that have to be big to work. That being Butterfree, Lapras, Snorlax, Orbeetle, Dreadnought, Sandaconda, Toxtricity, Alchemy, Duraludon, Blastoise, Rillaboom, Cinderace, and Inteleon.
Yay!
It is my opinion that these designs only work if they're hulking monsters with no mobility at all. You could feel the gravitas from when they enter the battlefield to the rumbling in the stadium when they fall. Of course, maintaining so few designs means I'm going to be scrapping most of them. If you'd like a comprehensive list of exactly who's going in the bin, here it is. Charizard, Pikachu, Meowth, Machamp, Gengar, Kingler, Eevee, Garbodor, Melmetal, Corviknight, Colossal, both Applin and Appleton, Hatterene, Grimmsnarl, Copperaja, Venusaur, and both Urshifus. For those counting at home, that equates to the Gmax count going from 32 all the way down to 13. Regardless of how well this video performs, I do plan to take the count back to that almost 30, both using redesigns of current Gmax forms, as well as new Gmax designs such as the ones I'm coming up with today. My final criticism of the whole gimmick is the gosh darn availability. In the 4 or 5 playthroughs I've done of Sword and Shield, I've never gotten to use a Gmax form, despite my desperate attempts. I absolutely do not think it's fair to only be able to induce the regional gimmick by buying the DLC, and I'm quite frankly disappointed that I've never encountered one in any of those playthroughs, either by missing dialogue or just never having the chance to see one at all. To kind of try and lessen this issue, I'm taking the Legend ZA Mega Evolution sort of route. Following a gym battle, starting on Nessa, and once every other gym battle following that, you'll be gifted enough max mushrooms for a max soup. Along with this, you'll be told of the Pokemon able to Gmax in the following area. If you miss the dialogue, there will be a tiny notification that informing you of a new addition to the Max catalog. The Max catalog serves exclusively to avoid players missing anything, especially a leg up in battle. If you haven't registered the specific mon to the dex yet, it'll appear in silhouette. After Gmaxing the Pokemon for the first time, if at all, the Gmax form will appear alongside the Pokemon in the Max catalog. Feel free to disagree though, always and forever criticize my takes. I was young and stupid when I played Sword and Shield, and I think that kind of reflects on these takes as well. With all those ideas in mind, I want to finally get into the designs themselves. Big things I wanted to focus on. Making designs feel huge, like a bulwark or unmoving wall. Separating megas and Gmax way better. If it works while being small, I don't want it in my version of the gimmick. And better expanding my own style. Does this relate to the designs themselves? Yeah, maybe. The gimmick? No. It's more of a personal challenge. Finally, 1,044 words into the script, I want to get into my first passes at all the designs, starting with Gmax Galvantula. I started this design like I do with most designs these days, and used gray to color block the basic shapes I wanted, adding the legs and mouth bits. Following that, I blocked out the stadium itself, positioning it around Sparky here so that he seemed big. I actually struggled on the stadium for so long that I doubled down and sketched the rest of Galvantula, giving his legs more length and overall not changing much going from little to big beyond that. After sketching, I moved to trying to draw the stadium again, this time landing on a design I liked and adding in the electric banners and the thunderweb that Gmax Galvantula is known for in this particular timeline. After all that, I finally did line art and colors to the entire piece, making the banners and web glow and crackle with electricity. After shading accordingly, my first pass is done. Although I do truly like this piece and how much it served as the basis for the rest of the designs I'll draw for this series, I do want to change a lot of things. For one, I need to change more from little Galvantula to big Galvantula, primarily longer legs and a larger abdomen. For two, better perspective on the stadium. Not directly related, but I also want to match the stadium to the design to the next one. And number three, the sky needs to be way better. I was exhausted by the time I ended up drawing it, and I think it shows in how little effort I put in. And finally, in a similar vein, the colors. By the time I colored stuff, I was resorting to the fill tool, which does not at all work with my brush of choice, so I have to put way more effort in the next time I do it. With all that being said, I'm ridiculously happy with how this pass turned out, and it more than matches all of the criteria I set earlier on in the video. This is one of, if not the coolest Pokemon-inspired pieces I've ever drawn, at least until I drew the final pass at a later Pokemon. Because I didn't do in-depth first passes with the other two designs, I want to move straight into my final pass at Gmax Galvantula. That's right, straight back into color blocking. I struggled on the legs for quite a while, and I wanted to make sure they had more clarity than they did in the first design. Next up was obviously the stadium, but I was so good at that I did line art and colors right there and then. Following that success, I did the sketch for our arachnid lad, followed by line art, and finally completed the colors. Time for the web, yay! I used the same method as I did last time to make it glow and be awesome. Most of the shading relied on it, so after completion, I added shadows. Now it's done. Hooray! Let's go look at it. Meet Gmax Galvantula and its signature move, Gmax Thunder Snare. A setup move that inflicts paralysis on the first Pokemon to hit it with a physical attack. I don't know if this is busted, but I'm a big fan of how it sounds, and I think that's good enough for someone who literally cannot balance for the life of them. Now, isn't he so cool? I am a huge fan of how this design looks now, and regardless of what you think, I think it's a total improvement. I definitely think this also fixes the issues I have with both my first pass and my issues with how Gmaxes were designed on reveal. The big thing I changed was the clarity between limbs. If you prefer one over the other, feel free to tell me why. Let it be known, though, I like the new guy. It's now time for the second of the three designs I'm showing off, that being none other than Ice-Q. In my opinion, there's really only one direction to take a Gmax version of this freezer penguin, that being icebergs. While I didn't necessarily have a first pass at Ice-Q, have this doodle I did. This doodle set the groundwork for what I wanted from a Gmax Ice-Q, but truly looks nothing like the design I settled on. Let's finally take a look at the design I did settle on, though. Hey, who'da thunk it, I'm color blocking! Establishing the shape of the iceberg was my main focus. You could even see how I planned to add a Wailord trapped in the ice, similar to my doodle. I eventually scrapped him in favor of Sharpedo. thanks to the size being easier to manage. Working on the background was way easier now that I'd worked on it a bunch, seeing as this was the second to last design I did. Doing the sketch for Ice Cube was easy, just had to define the shapes, then line art and colors. There's no electro web for this icy fellow, which means the shading is ridiculously easy and this design is finished. Let's give it a look. Gmax Ice Cube, which actually lacks a signature move and is replaced by a signature ability, Gmax Snowfall. Upon being hit with a physical move, a little bit of Ice Cube's iceberg will fall away, giving the battlefield the snow, or what would have been hail, effect at the time. I really like how goofy this one is, especially the Sharpedo being slightly off, because I can't draw Sharpedo. Despite this piece being one of the least technically impressive, I'm proud of it. Let me know what you think in the comments. With every bit of riffraff now out of the way, I want to move on to the final and my favorite design of the entire video. The one, the only, Gmax Cursula. As I've already posted the first pass on my channel as a short, I'll skip it. This design is by far my favorite piece, having both a unique design and incredible technical execution, by my standards anyway. And without further ado, my GOAT, the best piece I've ever drawn, Gigantamax Cursula. Color blocking introduces itself once more, and you could see me fiddling with doodles and sketches I'd done prior to better match the vision I had in my head. You could see just how much I struggled with the pose especially, but my doodles saved the day. Doing another sketch on top of my doodle lets me go straight into line art and colors, before starting on the background. This background is by far one I'm happiest with, both in composition and in colors. Adding the shadows, and I'm done. Gmax Cursula, with the new signature move, Gmax Undertow. A 2-turn ghost type move that first lowers the opposing Pokemon's speed and evasiveness, before finally hitting them with a brutal ghost type attack. Just look at her! Isn't she so cool? I'm very, very proud of how incredibly this design turned out, and I think it shows through in the design itself. You could see the haunted reef inspiration, with budding coral mimicking hands reaching for the surface. Please, please, please let me know what you think of this design down in the comments. With all the pieces finished and shown off, so is this video. Please let me know what you think of the changes I'd make to the gimmick, the designs I showed off, or both. If you watched till now or enjoyed any of this video at all, please consider interacting with it. I do all the writing, art, and editing myself, and to know other people like what I do would be wonderful. But for now, that's all for me. Goodbye.